Notice of motion, private business number 7, the Honourable T.A. Franks to move.
The Honourable Ms Franks.
Thank you, Mr President. I move private business notice of motion number 7, standing in my name.
Is it seconded? Seconded. The Honourable Ms Franks.
I rise today to speak in strong support of 5-4 Entertainment, Plus One Co and Lion Arts Factory, a collective of unique and creative South Australian businesses that bring so much rich variety to our music and events scene. We all know that the pandemic has had a serious and profound effect on the arts industry around the world, here in Australia and in particularly in this state. We've seen devastating effects here in this state. Despite us being this festival state, things sure aren't looking particularly festive for the entertainment industry. We are at serious risk of losing some of our vital arts infrastructure, businesses and talent. 5-4 Entertainment is predominantly a festival and concert promoter that's responsible for delivering 2 of the state's major music festivals, that is Spinoff Festival and St Jerome's Laneway Festival. Lion Arts Factory is an award-winning 600-capacity music venue located on North Terrace, Adelaide, just a few blocks from here. Plus One Co is a club night promoter responsible for some of the country's most well-known touring club nights operating across Australia, New Zealand and Japan. Prior to COVID, these businesses collectively delivered to South Australia 24 full-time equivalent staff, $35 million in yearly economic impact and a tourism impact of some $6 million per annum. Since COVID hit, and particularly from March 2020, these businesses have been severely affected, with trading levels plummeting to between 0 to 10% of their normal operations over the last 18 or so months. During this really difficult time, these businesses have tried everything. They have pivoted so much they should be prima ballerinas. 5-4, in fact, in this time, however, did host the country's first COVID-safe music festival, Summer Sounds. Certainly I attended back in January, February 2021, and I hope other members of this parliament did, to understand the great work that these organisations do. That was presented alongside Groove Events and Secret Sounds. And despite being publicly hailed as a success outside the organisation and selling some 30,000 tickets, this still did not prove to be financially viable as a business model. Further, Lion Arts Factory have tried every format of event and capacity that they can think of under the health rules to keep their business running. That is, from reduced club nights and gigs, attempting to run the venue at a 45% capacity, to quiz nights and even an indoor plant market. But without some serious support, all this effort will still not be enough. No matter how many such events and formats were trialled, these businesses simply cannot be sustainable with the current level of state-based health restrictions, and we understand why they're there, the capacities and the level of government funding available. At this moment in time, 2 of these businesses, 5-4 Entertainment and Lion Arts Factory, are 6 months or less away from bankruptcy and closing. Plus One Co has managed to survive by running events in other states that have more favourable health restrictions, such as WA, Tasmania and Queensland. To make matters harder, however, the Lion Arts Factory's lease, which is a government lease, is set to expire in December this year. They had a 3-year lease, and little did we know that almost 2 years of that would be consumed by COVID. They made a major investment when they took on that 3-year lease, but nobody could have foreseen what was to happen in terms of the impact on this industry. But so far, inexplicably, they have not had any answers from our Marshall Liberal government regarding their requested lease extension to give them certainty, despite having discussion after discussion with staff at the Department of Premier and Cabinet over the past 18 months. Look, the lease for that building, Mr President, was first secured in late 2018, and there was a verbal understanding with Arts SA at that time that if over a 3-year period of that lease the venture was a success, additional leases were likely. Significant renovations of the building were then, of course, undertaken in good faith, and they proceeded to host over 150 live music events in 2019. And again, Mr President, I fondly remember the Archie Roach gig that was put on in that venue, amongst many others. The factory's first and only year of full trade was that 2019 year, with some 150 or so live music events. Clearly a major contributor to the scene here in South Australia. Yet following this success, they had to close for the majority of 2020 due to the COVID-19 restrictions, and the small amount of trade that they have been able to undertake since has not been in a manner that is viable or sustainable for their business. Even since early this year, 2021, when restrictions have somewhat lifted, they've only been able to trade at best between 25% to 50% of their capacity. Despite this, however, Mr President, they're required to pay full rent, full tote odds from the Marshall-Liberal government, even though they're incurring all their usual fixed costs without being able to operate at a capacity to meet those costs. I have seen, and in fact myself received, after reaching out on behalf of 5-4 Entertainment, the correspondence received, the lacklustre correspondence received from the Premier in his capacity as the Minister for Arts, and of course correspondence from Minister Pizzoni. That response has been deeply disheartening, failing to address their concerns and telling these businesses to engage with the Music Development Office to try and get support. The funding that is available from the Music Development Office is minuscule compared to the funding that is needed to get this set of iconic music businesses back on their feet. Indeed, 5-4 Entertainment followed up with the Music Development Office, and they were informed, in fact, that at the moment no additional funding is being made available at this time. So what are we supposed to do? Let this significant music and events business go under after all the joy and the benefits and the positive economic impacts they have brought to our state? Well, I think this council and I think our community know better than the Marshall government. Indeed, that is why some 11,475 people have currently signed a petition. And that petition, which is on change.org, calls for support for these businesses to continue into the future and not to be lost to the South Australian community. Indeed, just simply as the landlord for these businesses, giving them some relief on their rent would be a small token that would go a long way. The audience of these events is a particular youth audience. They're engaged, they're passionate about live music in our state, and their needs aren't met by other companies. They aren't met by the Womadelaide and the other festivals. To allow these particular businesses that support younger South Australians and their interest in the music industry will be indeed to cut off entire generations and to show entire generations that this government simply does not support their interests. These companies have fought tooth and nail to stay afloat under the pandemic. They've sunk in increasingly trying to pivot, trying to stay afloat, without even the courtesy from the Marshall government to let them know whether or not their lease will be extended. Enormous personal investment in these businesses. But what I want to draw the council's attention to is that in other states, the support for the music and entertainment industry has been far different. Indeed, in New South Wales, music industry-specific funding of some $75 million has been made available. And there's currently regular weekly payments of significant amounts to businesses and staff during their extended lockdown. In Victoria, music industry-specific funding of some $20 million, plus a package announced recently to pay regular weekly payments of significant amounts to businesses and staff there during their extended lockdown. In WA, which of course hasn't had the same restrictions, music industry-specific funding of some $15 million, plus restrictions on music venues and festivals, has been minor compared to what we have had here. And the sector is, of course, there currently trading at 100% capacity and without restrictions on dancing. In Queensland, music industry-specific funding of some $10 million, plus restrictions relating to capacities, dancing and festivals, are far more favourable than those we see here in South Australia. In South Australia, we've had music industry specific funding of $3 million, an absolute pittance for what is needed and what is reflected around the rest of the country. I cannot see how we could proudly call ourselves a festival state when we are investing, I think foolishly, in festivals that seemingly no one wishes to attend much, and letting those who have been proven successes, and indeed the Laneways Festival is one of the most outstanding youth-oriented music festivals in our nation, we are letting those proven commodities fail while we throw good money after bad with things like the Bloom experiment. I urge the Council to support this motion to show that we stand with those members of the community, those younger South Australians in particular, or those younger-minded South Australians, that these sorts of music industry businesses and events are the ones we wish to see and continue to flourish in South Australia as they did before the pandemic. These talents, this expertise, this part of the industry is too important not to throw that investment in now before they indeed are lost to us forever.
The Honourable Mr Hood.
Mr. President, I move the debate be adjourned.
It's been seconded. Put the question. Those the question say aye. Against say no. I think the ayes have it. The adjourned debate. The Honourable Ms Franks.
Next Wednesday of sitting, Mr President.
Those for that question say aye. Against say no. I think the ayes